everyone, and welcome to Project Scheduling and Controls. This is a new program that we're offering from Procept Associates. Procept has been around for well over 20 years, offering project management courses, and this is our newest offering. There is a place for you to add questions, so feel free on your dashboard to write down any questions, and I'll do my best to answer those questions, probably verbally. In this short presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the new certification from PMI and the equivalent certification from AACE, which has been around a little bit longer. I'll present to you the learning objectives of the Project Scheduling and Controls course, a bit on logistics of the course and how it's going to be organized, a bit of background on the designers and instructors, and then we'll dive into the course content. I'll give you some sample slides and some sample content and the types of exercises that we're going to do. At the end of this seminar, I will present you with the scheduling certificate that we're rolling out in parallel with this, which is designed to take planners and schedulers basically from zero to being able to schedule for an organization. So let's talk about the credentials first. PMI has developed a scheduling professional credential and made it available last year. They have had 100 people write the exam and pass, and I think they now have close to 150 people credentialed. And AACE has had their credential out for since 2004, and it's along the same lines. Let's talk about each one of them. The Scheduling Professional Examination has been added on, as I mentioned, last year. There is a credential handbook that one can download. PMI is asking for a number of hours of experience, and the difference between the hours is whether or not you have a university degree. If you have a university degree, a four-year university degree, doesn't matter from where in the world, you are required to have 3,500 hours in planning and scheduling projects versus 5,000 hours if you do not. Again, the experience is specific to planning and scheduling projects. So curiously enough, one of our course designers, namely me, is not qualified to write because I don't do that anymore. I do 25% of my time in that, but not full-time. And you really need to be doing this at least 50% of your time over the last 8 years to be able to qualify for the exam. It requires 30 to 40 scheduling course hours. Again, that depends on whether or not you have a university degree. We suggest that you join PMI first, and the exam fee is $528 US if you are a member of PMI. It is based on the PMI Scheduling Professional Examination specification, 170 multiple choice questions. There are testing centers available at the website indicated on the slide. We recommend that even if you take the course, you do some home study and review and practicing, and passing grade is 70%. At this point, this exam is available only in English. AACE has a similar structure, but they would like 8 years relevant professional experience. So one of our instructors, Ralph, wrote the PMI examination, and I am scheduled to write the AACE examination, as I am qualified to write that. 4 years with the relevant university degree. Otherwise, again, recommend that you join AACE first, and it's a bit cheaper. There is a study guide from AACE. It's quite good for both the PMI exam and the AACE exam. Although the study guide does not simulate multiple choice questions, which PMI will be the substance of PMI's exam, nonetheless, it really does cover quite well the content required for PMI's exam. It's a bit more intensive. It's 7 hours. You apply to write at particular times of the year. Again, passing grade is 70%. And there's some content of AACE's PSP exam. There is a multiple choice component. There's a scenario component. There's specific scenario analysis and 40 multiple choice questions associated with that scenario. And then there is a short report on project scheduling that is required, and that basically takes a full day. Study materials for either exam. Kersner's Systems Approach to Project Management is a good general reference. The recommendations from AACE, there are guides and skills and knowledge guides. And PMI recommends a practice standard for scheduling. I'm not too fond of that one, sorry, but I am quite fond of the practice standard for earned value. And with those materials, you are quite set with the exam. Now, if you take our course, we will cover a lot of the content of the practice standards, and depending on your experience level as to whether we would recommend that you go ahead and get a study guide or not. So the course itself. The intent of this course is that when a participant comes out of it, they can create effective project schedules. We are intending this course to be applicable to all sectors. A lot of the planning and scheduling experience has been in engineering environments, but we recognize that project management is now used in many more industries than just engineering, many more disciplines, and as such we tried our best to make this course applicable to all environments. However, a lot of the learning is based on the good practices that are already there from engineering, from construction. The person coming out of this course will be able to implement project schedule controls. The word cost is there, but let's not assume that person coming out of this will be a good estimator and will know all about cost controls. That's not the intent of this course. We will specifically look at earned value management and how that is applied to real projects, to live projects, and in that sense we are looking at project cost control. A large component of the scheduling professional examination from PMI was emphasizing being able to analyze project metrics and prepare performance reports. So that is certainly going to be a fairly substantial component of this course as well. And of course, coming out of this course, that participants understand where they're at in terms of their studying for the examinations, either one, and recognize whether they have to do some home study still, whether they're ready to write. There will be passing requirements. It's a 5-day course. It will often be offered in 2 segments, a 2-day segment and a 3-day segment. They may be back-to-back over a weekend, or they may be separated by 2 or 3 weeks, as you see on the schedule below. Maximum number of participants is 15, especially in the first year or so that we're rolling this course out. We want to make sure we give attendees the right level of attention. We are not learning scheduling software in this course. We made that decision at the front end. Participants will have the opportunity to enter a practice schedule into their software package, whatever they are using in their workplace or they intend to use. If they don't have a software package already loaded on their laptops, there are many trial versions out there available. They can feel free to download whichever one they want. We feel that as an instructors, we are fluid enough in a lot of these software packages that we can guide somebody through the scheduling piece. We hope that they come in already knowing how to use the software package, however, because that use of the software package is a separate topic. We also wanted it to make this course applicable to both Primavera and Microsoft project users, as well as whatever other packages are out there, SureTrack, PlanView, Copper. So that is why we're not emphasizing the type of software you are using. That is one of the reasons for the prerequisite of people having some knowledge of software package before they walk in, which we'll get to in a second. So we are intending that people who attend this course have roughly 2 years experience in a project management environment. That does not mean that they were a project manager, but that they've been exposed to projects as a team member or in a clerical capacity or procurement, and this is what they want to move into. So they understand some of the terminology, because we will not be covering the theory. Well, we will be, but not the basic, such as what's a project charter, what's a project plan, and what goes into that, and so on and so forth. We recommend that an introductory course is advisable, such as Project Management Essentials. We recommend that people have had a course in scheduling software, have had experience with the scheduling software tool, enough that they know the commands and they're not fumbling with the commands. As I mentioned, it's a 5-day course. Day 1, we do spend time on theory. We introduce a case study, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. We spend quite a bit of time on the planning piece of project scheduling and planning how to build a project schedule, logic diagrams. Day 2, they will develop a real project schedule for a case study. Day 3, we'll talk about resources and earned value. Day 4, we will talk about risk management and change control. And day 5, we will introduce advanced concepts, and they will have to do performance reporting. They're actually doing performance reporting right from day 1. We're starting that topic on day 1, and we're building on it throughout the 5 days. There are 3 themes that are going to run through this course pretty consistently. The first theme is for people to understand the difference between duration-driven and effort-driven scheduling, and to understand how to when you're loading up resources, how you're going to load those up, particularly if you're using software. I should say also that although we recommend that people come in with a software package loaded on their laptops, all of the exercises can be done on pencil and paper if they really want to. So even the day 2 course, where we're really emphasizing them building a schedule for a live case study, it can be done on paper and pencil, and we will provide graph paper for that intent. However, of course, it is a lot easier if you have software, and a lot of organizations now use software for the schedule management pieces. The second theme that will be running through this course is baselining, and at what point do you baseline, and what goes into that development of the baseline, and then occasionally having to issue a second baseline, a second version, third version, so on. And the third element that will be running through this course pretty consistently is performance reporting. And participants will be asked to report out at one point in every day. So when we are talking about 15 participants, we'll probably break them up into 4 groups. And there will be, each person will have to present something on the 4 out of the 5 days, and they will get a mark for that as a team, as a group. We will also on day 5 present some advanced concepts, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I am one of the designers. I'm a vice president with Procept Associates. I've been instructing since 1995, and I was a practicing project manager since about 1991. As usual, you can become a project manager by accident. First for a contractor, and then eventually for government-type projects, software projects, standards development projects. And I've been working on various projects with Procept as well. The other course designer is Ralph Kuhn, who's been around a bit longer than me, and he wrote the Scheduling Professional Examination from PMI, and he's been training and consulting since late 1990s. So let's talk a little bit about the content of the course. Day 1, we talk about the context of schedule management, how we go about the process of developing a project schedule, and introduce the case study. We start the whole discussion off by a discussion of the scheduler's role, and this comes from PMI's role delineation study on schedulers, as well as AACE PSP certification study guide. As I mentioned, the 2 are pretty consistent with each other. So we talk about a scheduler's role in project planning and the emphasis on facilitating the process of preparing a project plan, assisting the project manager, and establishing scheduling policies and procedures and standards for the organization. It might be just for that particular project, but it might be for the organization as a whole. And the schedulers, the participants in our class, will have to, at a point, actually develop those standards and decide what they are and report out on them. We will also talk about the role of the scheduler during project execution, such in controlling and reporting on the schedule. So on this day 1, we are going to have them work with a case study. The case study is kind of fun. It's non-profit organization that is moving to a new facility and as such wants to increase their offerings. They will be required to renovate an old building. They will be putting in an IT cafe, a skateboard park. They'll have an opening ceremony. They'll have some publicity. They have some volunteers to manage. They have to hire a contractor and decide on a procurement strategy. All of that is going to be running through the course throughout the 5 days. So hopefully with this case study, it is generic enough and small enough that we can actually take it from concept to plan to implementation in this course, like a live project. But it's got enough substance to it that we can simulate a lot of real-life situations and hopefully appeal to engineering audiences, construction audiences, contractors, IT, and telecom, because all of those components are in this project. We are not teaching them how to develop a work breakdown structure, but we will ensure that they know how to build work and how to build work breakdown structures and how that's such a key element of a good schedule, of making sure that your schedule is focused on deliverables or systems or pieces of the project as opposed to cost structures or processes. They will create a simple master schedule. They will create and analyze a logic diagram. This is a simple one. This is not for the case study. It's just going to be in theory. They're going to get a lot of practice at translating relationship statements into dependencies. We'll spend the last quarter of the day talking about float. I always say that that's your project manager's best friend, so one should be able to find it and understand the difference between total float and free float and know what to do with it. They'll do some theoretical fast tracking and crashing as well. So here's a sample slide from day one. We will talk about hierarchy of schedules, the master, the common elements between these schedules. We have samples of real projects that we've genericized. Nobody knows where they come from. We talk about level 1 master schedule, critical path schedule, production schedule, and we'll also talk about level 4, the contractor schedule. Day 2, they will spend most of this day developing the case study schedule. So they will create a logic diagram using yellow stickies. They will each do a piece of the project and then we'll integrate it as a whole, as a class, and they will have to put that into their software tool or into a bar chart. They will have to look at whether the schedule that they created is healthy, looking at things like float and dependencies and making sure that it is realistic. We'll add real-life schedule details and constraints, and then we might look at some fast-tracking options and set communication standards, and we'll talk about baselining. The last half of the day, we'll talk about project strategies and how the schedule changes with respect to the strategy. This might not be the last half, this might be the last 2 to 3 hours, and how the schedule will change from a conventional type of schedule where we are designing something and then we're going to go out and bid it and then we're going to build it, to a design build where the two are in essence running in parallel. So they'll actually have an exercise where they will take a piece of our project and change it to a design build. This is also relevant for IT because in IT it does not make sense to design something and then build it and then finally test it. In IT, we design and then we build and then we test a little. It's a circular process. So they will actually have to take a piece of the project, either an IT portion of the project or the construction portion, and convert that to a design build type of schedule. We'll also give them an example schedules of EPC schedule, design build, operate, maintain, turnkey, prefab, pre-assembly, and have them pick out the differences between these kinds of schedules. We'll talk about outage schedules or shutdown schedules. We'll talk about procurement schedules, design schedules, which will be a little bit different than your conventional CPM schedule. We'll talk about commissioning schedules and event management schedules. And we actually might add a piece on Agile as well. We're not quite there yet, to decide whether that we have room for that in the course, but that might be an add-on at some point to talk about how do you develop a schedule for agile project management. Day 3 concentrates on resource management and earned value. Again, we're going to start off the day by ensuring that participants understand the differences between effort-driven and duration-driven scheduling, how you go about assembling the data, how we assign resources to the schedule. We're going to look at tools for identifying resource allocations. They're going to talk again about setting standards for schedule resource management. We'll look at crashing and compressing the schedule. And of course, when you crash, you may have to level resource allocations, or you may have to level that out before you even crash. So we will also practice our crashing skills with our real project. We'll finish off the day by looking at manpower loading curves and work contours. I'll talk about earned value in a few minutes. So this is a sample slide from the resource management piece showing the resource loading for a project and the manpower loading below and the histograms. We get very familiar with analyzing these. And of course, we will talk about earned value, and we will have them generate a baseline curve for our project. We will have them identify the value of the project at a certain status point and the actual cost. And we'll look at various ways of deciding how to report progress and how to identify that in an earned value curve, and how to interpret that, how to report out on that. And so they will be working on our live case study as well as some other sample scenarios. We'll build that through the half day. Day 4, we'll talk about risk and change management. Right from day 1, we are asking them to collect assumptions, and they will be given assumption logs. Well, they will have to identify and write down their assumptions as soon as the case study is presented to them. So any assumptions they come across or they make as they're going through building the case study, they will have to record. And this is the day where we look at those assumptions, and we do some assumption analysis and some risk analysis. We decide what we're going to do with that information, and most importantly, we'll look at alternatives for our alternative ways to perform our case study. And of course, we'll look at contingency and how much contingency to add and methods of adding it in our schedule. We will introduce Monte Carlo. We'll demonstrate Monte Carlo. We were actually going to have them run through Monte Carlo in the course, but it's a bit of a complex exercise because not everybody will have Monte Carlo on their computers. There will only be 1, maybe 2 computers available that will have, namely ours, that will have Monte Carlo loaded on. They will have to go through the process of ensuring their schedule is Microsoft Project, and so it becomes very complex with compatibility issues. So we thought the best way would be to take the case study as we built it together as a class and actually run through a simulation. And again, they will have to, as a group, decide what they do with that information, how they build it into their project schedule. The last half of the day, they will have to perform updates to the schedule. We'll have changes happening. They will have to adjust the schedule in response to those changes, make some decisions as to whether they need to baseline or not. And we will talk a lot more on day 4 about performance reporting. So this is a sample slide of the risk management piece. So this is duration variation based on medium confidence in the project plan. Here's another extract out of the updating of the project. And they see a sample of negative float and going into a milestone. They will have to analyze that and find out how to recover, suggest ways to recover from this slippage. On day 5, they will have to create a short-term look-ahead schedule of the case study based on the data that we inputted the day before. We'll present alternatives to CPM, which we'll talk about in a minute. They will get a chance to analyze existing project plans, and then they will have presentations to make to us. a summary of what they've learned, and of course of the case study, as if they were reporting out to the client or to the project sponsor. We'll have a bit of discussion about organizational behavior, and we will finish off the day with a quiz. So they will have an opportunity to practice test taking if their intent is to pass the examination, the PSP or the SP examination. It will probably be multiple choice along with a bit of short answer type questions. So for the 2-week look ahead, here's the sample exercise for that particular exercise for day 5. Critical chain is one of the advanced concepts that we will be talking about, this is particularly relevant for those who, for CPM, is perhaps not the most appropriate way of developing a schedule. We also present GERT. We will not talk about PERT. Well, I should put my tongue firmly in my cheek on that, because we will talk about PERT in the risk management portion of the course, not so much for a way of scheduling, but as a way of developing a weighted value of for duration of a task, or weighted value for effort of a task, or perhaps developing templates, scheduling templates where we have optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely columns, and we decide how we're going to use that information. But we don't, PMBOK has discredited PERT, or has not, let's just say it's not included in the most recent version of the PMBOK. I kind of like that, so we're not going there as a scheduling methodology. But we'll talk about GERT just to present it as an advanced concept, and we will talk about critical chain. In addition to this project scheduling course that, as I mentioned, is 5 days long, if people want to have full knowledge of scheduling, we are presenting a scheduling certificate, which consists of a person taking Project Management Essentials, which is a 3-day course that introduces people to the essential elements of project planning, implementation, and controls, and finally closing. And the case study used there is a similar case study. We're only taking a segment of it, Project Management Essentials, and developing a project plan for it. But there's some continuity there when people are taking this course, that they've been introduced to the case study, and this is now the bigger piece of the puzzle. There's also Project Management Essentials for Contractors. It is short, it's 2 days. Runs along the same lines. So either one of those, of course, if they've taken more advanced courses such as our comprehensive, or perhaps if they already have their PMP, we'll give them credit and they won't have to be required to take the Essentials course. Microsoft Project Essentials for 2 days, which teaches you how to take that project plan we developed in Essentials courses and implement that project plan. And then, of course, finishing off with project scheduling and controls as the 5-day course. So that's the scheduling credentials, scheduling certificate in a nutshell. I see we have lots of time still for questions. If you have questions, please type them in, and I'll be only too pleased to answer them. Any questions out there? So we're running this course October 19th. Those of you who want to sign up, please call Procept, and we'll be happy to assist you. It'll be run in the 3-day version and a 2-day version, 3-day and 2 days. 3 days, October 19th, 20, 21st, and then again in the first week of November, for the first 2 days of November. So we look forward to seeing you. If there are no questions, I will sign off, and also if you need any questions on further information on the seminar, feel free to email us and we'll be happy to send you a description and further information. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was useful.